Mr. Gurumurthy, first up the Congress is saying, why is this an election issue? It is Mr. Pitroda's thoughts. We haven't implemented. It's not in our manifesto.
It's not easy for the Congress to escape because they talked about wealth survey and redistribution of wealth. And Rahul Gandhi said that, we have only said we will do the survey. And we never thought of an actionable proposition, which is not correct because I read the manuscript, manifesto, that it is an actionable and policy-oriented proposal. So Congress is not a research organization to do a survey and publish it for public opinion. And even if it does, it will not be proposing it in the election manifesto. So what Sam Pitroda said has to be viewed in the background of the survey and wealth distribution, redistribution, which the manifesto talks about. So it is not that the Prime Minister or the BJP has torn what Sam Pitroda said out of context. Sam Pitroda himself spoke in the context of redistribution of wealth, which is part of the Congress manifesto. And it was announced with a lot of fanfare. So this is bound to have impact on the people's mind, particularly because this idea was an idea of 1950s. Most of these people do not relate back in history. Economics is not a mere theory. It has a relation back to the history. What was appropriate in 1950 will not be appropriate in 2024. The Congress itself has realized it. It's not that this is a new idea or discovery of Modi. I don't know how many are aware. There was one Nicholas Kaldar who was invited by Pandit Nehru to propose a model of redistribution of income, wealth and resources. And he proposed, apart from income tax, 3 other taxes: wealth tax, gift tax and estate duty. That if you keep the money, you will be taxed. If you gift the money, you will be taxed. If you die with the money, you will be taxed. This kind of choking of the economy resulted in the weakening of the Indian economy, the families. What people like Pitroda do not understand, they are comparing the landscape in America and India without knowing India is a family-oriented economy and America is an individualist economy. For example, social security scheme, it is universal there. And so family need not have to provide for its own social security. The government takes care of it. Of course, there is a huge problem in that because the government is running into a deficit in the social security account of $72 trillion. But that is their problem. But 90% of the Indian families provide for their own social security. So you cannot tax the Indian families or Indians like the way the Americans tax the American families and individuals. In America, the concept of family has weakened so rapidly. 55% of the first marriages end in divorce and it goes on. So the landscape is different. So for Sam Pitroda to draw a parallel between America and India and he is the mentor, philosopher and guide of the Congress, it shows the Congress is running out of ideas.
Interesting. The fact that you say that this actually in the long term is an assault on the idea of the structure of the Indian family. But playing the devil's advocate, 1985, it was the Rajiv Gandhi government, it was the Congress government that did away with the inheritance tax. Why would they bring back an idea which they themselves debunked at one time?
See, it is not that somebody said that the Congress will bring back. It is the Congress's mentor, the philosopher, the guide who says that. Do you mean to say in an election season, when he says that, that will be dismissed? It cannot be dismissed. Because what he says can be taken advantage of in this election, that they are going to tax the rich people and give an orientation of the socialist appeal and then grab votes. So they have to be exposed. It became an election issue, as I told you, in the background of wealth survey and redistribution of wealth. And they also mentioned to whom it will be redistributed. And of course, it has a social orientation, and Rahul Gandhi mentioned 22 crore people and all that. But the fact remains, you have also to see what Dr. Manmohan Singh said in the year 2006. So, in an election, all these are bound to be issues, because in the mind of the people, there is a question about the Congress. That the Congress has been appealing to sections for its own advantage. And that has to be exposed for people who are interested in the larger idea of India.
Mr. Gurumurthy, this argument is being echoed again and again that it is a special interest group that the Congress is catering to, that money when it's redistributed will obviously stand to benefit. And the elephant in the room is basically is the Muslim population. So the argument is they will take it for everyone, they will give it to Muslims. But if we were to talk about inheritance tax, even Mr. Pitroda, if we were to say that he is informing the Congress's aims and objectives, is not saying that we will put an inheritance tax on Hindus. He will do it on everyone. Then where does this element of appeasement come in? Then the inheritance of Muslims and the inheritance of Christians and Parsis and Buddhists and Hindus will be taxed alike.
No. The inheritance tax is different. It is eroding all families, whether it is Hindu or Muslim or Christian or Parsi. But it is spoken in the context of redistribution of wealth, which is intended to benefit a category of people. So this, you are going back to the days of 1950s and 60s, and you have yourself given it up as something impractical. It will not work. It will not lead to formation of capital. It will not lead to productive strength. And so you gave it up completely in 1990s and joined the globalization vehicle, which has nothing to do with this kind of approach of redistribution of wealth and survey and, of course, an inheritance tax of the kind. But I am on a different agenda. That is, the Congress is on a different agenda. Even for them to say something like this, they must have a debate within the party. They must put it into their cadre. They must prepare the public mind for at least 6 months in advance. You cannot give an emergency notice of such a large issue of U-turning the country after 30, 40 years and say that this is something which should not be commented. In the background of what you have been saying, you are already a suspect in the mind of the people, you must understand. Congress is a suspect in the mind of the people.
Okay.
Because it has been overemphasizing, whether it has done or not. Orally, it has been promoting certain sectional interests without applying rational thinking or logic. So you are a suspect. And when you say this in the background of all this, naturally it will become an election issue, not in the sense in which you want it, in the sense in which you won't want it.
But then there are also examples of how ministers in the BJP, Jayant Sinha, former MOS Finance, for example, has also mooted the same idea that there should be an inheritance tax. So if we are looking at Sam Pitroda as an example of the Congress's economic policies, how can Jayant Sinha, who was an actual minister, be disowned? Does he know that what Modi government's policies are?
I am not saying that's what I told you. I'm not saying this is an idea which should not be discussed. I should have been discussed 6 months in advance. Somebody, you see, I write an article and then on that basis some discussion takes place. That has nothing to do with an election. if even a minister talks outside the context of an election, it has no meaning. It's only an opinion. But when the election is on, and especially in the background of a U-turn which the Congress is doing in terms of the economic principles which it had adopted in 1990s, and it is not very much divorced from the redistribution and acquiring people's wealth on death. There is an interlacing, because when it goes into the hands of the government, the Manmohan formula that the first right over this will go to XYZ, there is a link. So when you make this proposal, when the election is on, to say, no, this is like some giant Sinha or Arun Jaitley saying it 5 years back, I think it is a very, it's an easy escape. That's not correct. It's not just an opinion, especially in the context in which it is made.
Okay, let me finally ask you this. At a time when most people agree this election is more of a presidential contest, where people are either looking to vote for Mr. Modi or vote against him, keep him in Delhi or vote him out and vote in maybe somebody else, a challenger, do issues like this really have resonance? What do you think eventually the electoral importance and impact of something like this is going to be?
See, actually, whether the country will elect A or B will depend upon what the people want the governance of the country to be. If they want a government of the kind which they elected between 1989 and 1998, when we had 7 prime ministers and some ruled for days and months, that they have to keep in mind when they vote in this election. Because in the last 10 years, whatever India has achieved is because of a stable government. So that is what will weigh heavily in favor of Narendra Modi and the continuation of a stable government against which there is a rickety coalition. They could not even bring out a common minimum program. So that larger issue stands on its own. But in between, if the Congress bowls a googly that Modi should not hit it for a 6, he is to ask for a favor from Modi or from the BJP. My view is you must not be foolish in bowling in the middle or in the later overs, full tosses and half volleys. That's what the Congress is doing. This is not the main issue, but this puts the Congress on the defensive. They're now running away. It's now begging. No, don't. This is not what we meant. Is this the position in which the contending party should keep itself in the middle of the war?
Okay. Well, we will leave it to the wisdom of the people and, of course, the wisdom of the very, very wise people within the party who is mounting a challenge to Narendra Modi and the BJP. But like I said, just hours to go now for the second phase of polling. Will this have a resonance? We won't have to wait too long to find out. Less than a month. Thanks very much, Mr. Gurumurthy.